Yeah. As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going. Better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And this Monday morning, May 9th, around 11:04 in Eastern Time. But also, this is God's time. This is our time. This is our time to tell our story, to be our story, to really live our story, because we're going to have the pleasure this morning of hearing from Mr. Parks, Roger Parks, and his story. But his story is really our story when it comes to our entitlement, our right to equal health, to fair health, to equitable health, and just our right to live in a fulfilled society, in spite of sometimes medical issues impacting that journey. We're going to talk about Mr. Parks, Roger Parks' medical journey, and from a brain aneurysm standpoint. And I really want to thank you, Roger, for sharing. I mean, this is so key. We can hear from doctors, we can hear from, read the New England Journal of Medicine, but to hear from folks that have gone through the journey, that are on the journey, and are willing to share it, it's just so inspirational. So I just want to, at the top of the show, just thank you in particular. I'm joined this morning also by two reverends, Reverend Dr. Leroy Perry Jr. and Reverend Perry is the pastor at St. Stephen's Church, Amy Zion Church, and cultural ambassador to the Yale Clinical Research Program located in the greater New Haven area, and also joined by Reverend Alvin Clayton. Reverend Clayton is pastor of Walters Memorial AME Zion Church and cultural ambassador to the Yale Clinical Research Program. And Walters Memorial is located in the greater Bridgeport area. I referenced the word brain aneurysm, and just as a kind of a quick background, it's a brain aneurysm is a weak, or it's a thin spot in an artery in the brain, and it gets larger. It can balloon and bulge and fill with blood. And what that means is that bulging aneurysm can really put pressure on the nerves or the brain tissue. It might also burst or rupture and even spill blood into the surrounding tissue, kind of a hemorrhage. People have probably heard that word, hemorrhage. And a ruptured aneurysm can actually cause serious health problems, such as a hemorrhage, brain damage, coma, and even death. And not that Mr. Park that you've been resurrected, but certainly you've been here to kind of reveal your ability to kind of respond. So Reverend Clayton and Reverend Perry are going to kind of share with us, talking to you, and you're going to do most of the talking. And don't charge us too much for your participation. I just want to thank you. Maybe Reverend Perry and Reverend Clayton can kick us off in terms of why this is such an important topic and why the culture ambassadors have decided to put Roger on the hot seat, and hopefully it's not too hot.
Okay. Yes, we decided to do this show on telling our story because we realize that there is nothing like hearing the testimony of individuals who've gone through something. And so some of the hidden things that we would not normally see or know about, their personal trials and hiccups and triumphs. And so when people hear these stories, they can learn from it, and we can all learn from it. And I think it's just so much part of our history that's hidden. It's almost like the Black history being stolen and hidden. And here we have living witnesses. We have living testimonies. So while you're alive, it's also awesome to hear your story, because once you're gone, this story goes with you to the grave. Thank God you are alive so that we can hear your testimony and hear your story. I'm in anticipation, and each story is different. So every week that we do this telling our story. There will be someone different telling their stories, from the young to the old, to the rich, to the poor. And I think it's just going to be an awesome way of tracking our medical and diversity history for the world.
Tom, let me just share this with you and the audience. I chose Roger to tell this story because he's a man of faith. James chapter 2, around verses 14 through 18 talks about faith without works is dead. And this brother is a great man of faith. Now, some people claim they have faith, but they have no works. They have no deeds to go along with that faith. Roger was one. Not only is he a man of faith, but he's a man of faith because he works. He worked at getting himself better. He followed the physician's instructions. He did the rehab, and when he went home, he continued his regimen to make sure that he healed completely. And as you can see today, and as you hear his story, we will discover that, boy, if he went through this, and I pray that he will inspire others who may have the same situation, will do the work and trust in our God, and they will recover as well.
Excellent. Roger, the platform's yours. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I am Roger Parks. I'm originally from Virginia. Came to Connecticut around 1960. I attended Housatonic Community College. I was president of the student senate there. And I graduated in 1969. And from there, I went to the University of Bridgeport. And I graduated from there with from Housatonic, I had associate in business administration, University of Bridgeport, BA in accounting. And at this time I was at the University of Bridgeport, I was working for a major accounting firm in Bridgeport. Later, I got a job at Avco Lycoming in Stratford as an accountant there, cost accountant actually. And I was there about 3 years. And after that, I met my current wife, Christine Hunter Parks, and we got married in 1975. And so we've been married ever since. And that's a blessing. And she's the main driver of my success or whatever. And right now, at work, I was an accountant, actually, and through 42 years of working at basically the same company, Avco Lycoming, Textron, and then Allied Signal and Inertial Systems. All through all the buyouts, I was the one that was progressively saved through that process because of knowledge that I had stored within me as far as computers and the business world. And I excelled through that process. And so it brought me to the point where you become diversified in your learning. And I, at Inertial Systems, before Goodrich took over, they offered a buyout plan. And I said, okay, this is my chance to get out with something after all these years, because you're multitasking and they're using your brain to do different jobs. And if you were qualified for those jobs, not with the pay, of course, but you had to move on. And after a while, you get caught up in this transition period and you want to just let go of it. So I decided to retire in 2013. And so I took that retirement and I left, and I enjoyed being retired. About it. So that put me to the point where I am more experienced with life, closer to God. I had time to devote and think of and and do certain things that I enjoy doing.
Yes.
And to this day, I still am doing those things. Leading up to my discussion about aneurysm, I made an appointment. I had a dental problem. I made an appointment with the dentist on a Friday, December 17th, 2017. I left West Haven. My home is in West Haven. I drove to Stratford to the dentist, and everyone know me. I speed a lot, so
I'll watch out. I'll watch out for you. I'll watch out for you on the road. Thanks for sharing that.
I had no time getting there. It's just lucky that when I got there, I was waiting for my turn to get my teeth clean or whatever the situation was at the time. And they called my name, and I got up and I went into the office, and all of a sudden I just felt dizzy or lightheaded. So I standing there, then I just felt weaker, and I just went to my knees. But normally with aneurysms, you have a headache, you have blurred vision, you're walking, you can't walk as good. But I was just standing there, and I just fell to my knees, and no headache, no nothing. And I told the dentist that I didn't feel right. And so he said, yes, what was wrong? How did I feel? I said, I feel okay, just I have no strength. And he examined me because he was a doctor also. And so he said, I can't pinpoint what your problem is, but I'll call EMS. And he did. So he worked with me for a while, and I was just sitting here comfortably, no problems at all. And the EMS arrived, and I could see them coming through the door, and they were examining me, and that's the last thing I remember at that point. Later on, I found out that they took me to Bridgeport Hospital, emergency, and through their diagnostics, they found out that whatever it was that was bothering me, an aneurysm, of course, but they did not have the facility nor the doctors in order to take care in Yale New Haven Hospital. I don't even remember going there. I don't remember even coming out of there. And through the process of through that process, there was a lot of things going on that I hear after the fact of what happened. I remember traveling in outer space. I was not part of the audience here on Earth. It was like a space type thing, and everything around was white. The vision not clearly identified as, there were people, but not clearly identified. But I enjoyed where I was, and there was a lot of action going on, but it was at a distance where it was all good. And I'll put it together after this. But that went on for whatever period I was in captivity with the aneurysm. They did perform the operation. They got the okay from my wife as to what procedure they had to do and all this, and they did. When I woke up, I was in Milford Rehab or Milford Hospital, and I couldn't remember exactly what happened. All I know is that the dreams that I had, I was dreaming a lot, and I think it was combination of my dreams and actually what was happening when I opened my eyes and saw nurses or whatever the case may be, because that became part of my dream process. And all I could see was just the whiteness of surrounded by me. And I know that there was a door in this white building, all illuminated, totally white. But I could not open that door to get out. You know, I was trying to get it open, but it would not open.
Or to get in.
Or no one could get in either. So I was there, but I felt comfortable. And, I know the nurse says, no, you can't, or the person that was in white said, no, you can't leave this room because you're not ready yet. And I said, okay. So I got back into bed, laid back down, and I had these other dreams that I was being transported again. And I think it was probably because I'm moving from one floor to the next floor within the same facility. That in that sequence, then I have more dreams. And it depicts certain situations where I'm not sure again where I am. And I had a problem with that. So I got confused. And when I heard someone talking about relax and enjoy yourself, because we were going to a party. So and through that sequence, I find myself into a limousine, a black limousine. Said, we're going to New York, and it's your party that we're going to have. Drove there and put me on the elevator, take me up to this room, and it's wide open room, and there was a lot of hors d'oeuvres, music, and it was surreal. So I stayed there and had a party. I was dancing. Then afterwards, they took me out there. I came back, got back into the limo, drove back to the place where I was living. I think it was the hospital at that time. I get out and I'm waiting for them to take me back to my room. Everything's beginning to be clarified. So they had me waiting in this little room, like it was like a basement. When I was there, and I woke up and I could see a manger in the window. I think it was me as a baby in the window. And the sun was shining on one side and it was snowing on the other side. So I went through that and I woke up and I said, what about the man that's next to me? He's hungry, you got to feed him. They said, don't worry about him. You have to worry about yourself. When they come to get you, we'll take you back up to your room. They did that. And I remember going back up there. And when I got up there, I went to sleep again. The next version of my memory was that I was in New Haven at a house next to Yale Hospital. And I know that they were taking care of me for some reason. Then I looked out the window and there I could see the hearse, and I could see Olin Dorsey, which is our singer. And he was dressed in beige suit and beige coat. And I said, okay. I said, I always tell you got to sing for me. So he said, yeah, I'm ready. And I could see him at a distance, see all the people around and the hearses out there. But I'm in this building looking out the window, trying to observe what's going on. But there was no disappointment, no anguish. It was like a happiness, nothing. And so I guess it was God's way of showing me that it's going to be okay. And I don't know if I was on my way out or just, or what it was at the time. And I thought I was just dead. Basically, I thought I was dead, but I wasn't. And through that process, I could see Olin coming to the building. And then I wake up again. And here I am in the hospital. And after that, I experienced all the people that are around me, and I could talk. I could talk to them. I could relate to them. But and certain times I didn't know what I was saying. They said, "It's okay. Don't worry about it." So I did that, and they were taking me through a process of rehabbing within my room. And I didn't know what they were doing, but they did it. They would get me out of bed. They would put me in a wheelchair. They would take me to shower, but I couldn't shower myself. They showered me in the room. Then as time progressed, this is about a month later, they started giving me exercise downstairs in the room. And each day I would go down there for exercise for about 15 minutes and come back up, and they put me back in bed. And then I would watch TV. I don't remember what I was watching, but of course your mind is not totally there. You have interruptions, and you come back and you have more interruptions. But basically, you know that you're alive, and you're aware of the care that you're receiving. But you really, in my mind, all I wanted to do was just get out, just get out. No, I couldn't, but I tried.
Yes.
And always their demands was to stay in bed and you can't move. And I said, yes, I can. But they said, no, you can't. So I was hard patient that way. But as far as doing what I should be doing, I listened and I did it.
Yes.
So I was there for till February. Beginning of, and they thought that I was ready to leave and go to a better rehab facility. And I left there and I went to was it not Gaylord? Or was it that facility in Stratford?
Oh God, my father.
Yeah.
Richard Chamberlain, Lord Chamberlain.
Lord Chamberlain. Like they put me in the ambulance and took me to Lord Chamberlain. That was about February 2nd or something like that. And I remember going there. When I got there, they put me on a stretcher and they took me I was on the first floor, down the hallway to the left. And I went down there, and it was a big room. And so only one guy was in there, and he was at the beginning, and I was over near the window, big facility. And I was lucky in that sense that I was in the area where most of the nurses were. That was near Heaven there. And so they watched after me daily. They made sure that I was very comfortable. But the food had to be pureed. I didn't know, but that I had to eat a lot of food that contained a lot of protein to build myself back up. It was a long process. I can't remember everything, but my wife, she would come every day. She would come to see me. And I would eat every day. But then it got to the point where I couldn't actually remember a lot of stuff. Your speech is slurred. You felt that you didn't have any strength, and I did lose a lot of weight. And my hair was gray. and I said, whoa. And each day they would come, give me speech lessons because I was just mumbling. And every day they had an hour speech therapy, an hour of mathematics.
What was the struggle with the speech?
I couldn't. I had slurred speech, and then I couldn't remember exactly what I said 2 minutes ago.
Did that frustrate you?
It bothered me, and I really tried hard not to go through the experience. And I after they finished the therapy session, I would sit up in bed and I would try to pronounce the words, and I would try to remember going back the way I was. A lot of times it worked. Sometimes it didn't because it took me someplace else. But I refused to give up on that. When they came back second time, my speech was getting a little bit better after a week. And they were taking me through the process of learning numbers or subtractions, adding, and all this. And so I did. And after a while, because I'm very good at numbers, everything started clicking. I didn't let them know how much I had advanced, because I said, if I do, they won't continue to do what they're doing. So I had to remain calm and just listen to them and knowing all the time that I'm much better than what they think I am.
How weak? How was it in terms of your strength? How long did it take to get your strength back?
Strength was not there. I was very weak, and the reason I knew that was when I couldn't go to the bathroom myself, and they had to. The second week, they tried to get me up. They did get me up, put me in a wheelchair, and said they had to take me to the gym down the hall to do some exercise. So they did that. It wasn't easy, but the second time I learned, I said, okay, I got to do this. I have to do this. And when he brought me back to my room, I was in bed and I would do my legs exercise in bed because I wanted to walk myself. So I did that every day, even when they weren't there. And I was always conscious of them coming when they're coming, when they aren't coming. So I would do a little bit exercise when I get there. So when they're getting in the wheelchair, I know that my movement is better than what they think it is. So they took me to the exercise room, and the things that I thought I could do, I couldn't do. I didn't have the strength to do it. But so I just, she gave me, one nurse gave me the balls, tennis balls. She said, if you squeeze this when you go back, take them back to your room when you go. When you're in bed, she says, squeeze them constantly. Just raise your arms up and down, up and down. I did that practically all night, just for myself. So it's a lot of things you can do for yourself if you push yourself to do it and you know the situation. So you can't just lie there and not do anything and think everything's going to be okay. And I always knew that I had God on my side, so I have no problem. So through that process, gradually, within the second week, they took me upstairs to another facility where they can do extra physical activity, like throwing a ball or trying to get a basketball into the net and all this. And I had difficulty doing that, extra coordination I had to do. So I, after a while, I was able to do that. None of it was easy, but my mindset, I had to do it. So I continued to do it. And within the following end of that week, I had my doctors had came to examine me and look at me and tell me that I was doing okay. And asked me, do I feel like I could go home if I had therapy or someone coming to my house to take care of me, to look after me. And I said, I don't want to go home unless I can walk. So I made that clear. I said, I want to do things for myself. So the next 3 days, I went through extraneous testing and walking. I wanted to walk. Even when no one was in the room at night, I would get up and I would just walk myself. I would go to the bathroom, even though I wasn't supposed to go to the bathroom myself. I went to the bathroom myself. And I got back in bed. They didn't know anything about it. So I was building my strength up at that time. And so when it was time for them to release me out from the hospital, from the rehab place, that was February 13th, I think, or 2 days before Valentine's Day. They gave me instructions about someone coming to the house to daily to walk me, take care of me, or walk me around the house. And they did. When they released me, my wife picked me up. She brought me home. And of course, there was all these big signs and balloons around my mailbox, welcome home. But I didn't see anyone else. But the welcome was there. So I went inside and I felt comfortable, and I felt rejuvenated as much. I said, now this is where I am, and this is where I live, and this is where I want to get better. And I did. I just didn't sit down. My wife, she always told me, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this. You got to be careful doing this and listen to what they say. And knowing that if you're a man, you do what you do. And so I did what I did, and that was get up and walk.
All right.
And that's me. And when the therapists came to exercise me or take me outside, I did. And we were walking around the block with the game told me that if I felt weak or didn't feel right, to let them know, and they would bring me back. The difficulty I had in walking was that I couldn't lift my legs like I really wanted to, so I was dragging them. And I had to be careful not to stumble over something. So that happened for 2 or 3 days. And then it got a little bit more, I got a little bit more fluid, so I could really lift my legs up more than I had before. I did that process for about a week, and each day it was progress, a lot of progress. Only because mentally, I'm the type of person that dominates or lives on let's say, do what you have to do. And in my mind, I had to do certain things, and I know I had to do them, and I did them. And I was squeezing the balls, lifting the weights, small weights, that is. And I just kept going, not just sit down and watch TV.
Would that be your instructions to another person or people who might have the same problem?
Yes. Don't give up. And always, if someone tells you to do something, always do a little bit more than what they actually tell you to do, with them or without them. And that's what makes you better than what you were.
Roger, I have a question for you. Did you have brain surgery? Was that part of the treatment?
Yes. I did have my aneurysm erupted, and they did operate on me. And I was told that I did have blood all in my eyes and all this stuff. And so the doctor, Dr. Matuk and Dr. Averitt, they did perform the surgery. And I think he had indicated to the nurse, or the words I learned, that he said with the complications I had, my life it was like 7 or 8% of survival. So I didn't know that, but whatever they did well. I know Dr. Matuk had put a shunt in my head. It's plastic tubing that runs from my head to the back of my ear and down through my neck and down to my stomach to drain fluids from my brain that's building up in there. So, and it had a monitor in it, in my head, like in the front, and which they can program. They can put something on, like a magnet on top of my head, and control the sensors in there.
Wow.
And I didn't know that either, but I found that out later when I went back.
I have another question, Roger. Did anyone else in your family have an aneurysm?
Yes, my youngest brother, Robert, he had an aneurysm 2 years before I did.
Wow.
Yeah, and he went through the same process as I did, but he was in Gaylord rehab.
Okay.
And he was there for a while.
Did the doctor suggest that for you or any of your other siblings that you guys should do something to try to prevent it?
No, he did not. It's not he explained that it's not hereditary because no one else had it. But what I learned from reading itself, you increase your probability of getting aneurysm, as I had. One is by drinking too much, and I did. Smoking too much, I did. And those two, and high blood pressure, the combination of those three is very damaging to your health. And that's what triggers aneurysm. But you don't even know that you're having them, that there is no signs. There are signs for some people that have aneurysms. Like women are more susceptible to getting aneurysm than men. And my sister-in-law, Johnny, my friend, my best friend, she had an aneurysm when she was 50, and it erupted, and she had this massive headaches. And that's all I remember, that she fell to the floor, but she did not make it. They had to pull the tube on her after a couple of weeks. So I say to myself that I thought about that. I said, why me? It's something that just happened. It wasn't my turn. It wasn't my time.
Okay.
I would say it wasn't my time.
Maybe Tom might have a question for you.
Well, I mean, I've just been enraptured by your rendition and your memory. If I can go back, Roger, because I hear the issue that psychology and mental fortitude is so important. You know, that theme kind of comes across. And you mentioned it was 2017 that you had your surgery.
Yes.
And so, 5 or so years ago, and for you to remember so distinctly the dreams. I mean, some people don't remember the dreams the next day. And this is 5 years ago. For you to go through that, I saw a movie when you were describing the scenes in your dreams and the various locations. That was a true movie. So to me, the message is, again, the power of the mind. That the mind can not only work tricks, but can also be your saving grace. So for you to embrace your mind the way that you have then doing your job, doing your college education, and even now is really it's really a profound message to me. So I don't have a specific question. I would be curious about the importance of family support, of medical support during that journey. You referenced a little bit about your location being near the nurse area where you had access to nurses, but I'm curious about how, as a tag team to Reverend Clayton's comment, how important is it from your standpoint to have that security net of friends or the network of friends or professionals to kind of because everyone's not going to be as strong as you come across. Everyone's not going to be, and we know that there's a high propensity of Black and Hispanic people that can be subject to aneurysms more than disparate more than white people. So how important is the support network? And I say that because whether you have an aneurysm or you get a cold or a COVID, just in terms of navigating through life, we need this support network. So I was just curious how important a network of friends and professionals and just associates are important from your standpoint.
It's very important. One is that when I was in the rehab or hospital, my wife, I know she was there every day. Even in the rehab, she would come every day, faithfully, and I knew that. So I that was my security blanket. I knew that I could always count on that. The nurses, the way they treated me, what I guess is my demeanor, my attitude. They fell in love with that, so they made sure that I was getting the proper care. Everything clean, or I was getting the physical therapy that was required. It depends a lot on how you get along with the people and how you talk to them. They deserve respect, just like I deserve respect or wanted respect.
Wow.
And that helped out a lot because they said they didn't mind doing anything for me. And in that same pattern of caring, it means a lot to me knowing that they were there when I needed them, and I could sleep comfortably at nighttime. Then I did have visitors like Reverend Clayton and other people came to see me, and it opened up a new world for you because you know that you're not alone. And this is not only your battle, it's their battle to make sure that I'm doing the right thing and getting better. And there are a lot more to dreaming or things, a lot that I haven't told you that I experienced. And if I were to write a book, it would probably be in that book. And
well, you must do that. Please do that.
And some of it would scare you and scare me even to remember it. And it makes you really, really think and know how much God really cares for you. And I'm thoroughly convinced there is like that today. I won't get that part, but it's definitely there. That's no doubt about that.
Can I make a comment here? Roger, Tom opened up a door that about the supernatural and about God that is sometimes, my father had a heart attack. And one of the things, he had two that he survived. And one of them, he said, he saw a light. And I kept thinking, Dad, are you really telling me the truth? Did you really see a light, that you were being led to the light? Because I know that's in the movies. And it just seems to me that anyone who has these cultural experiences, and when life crushes in, and you have your pastor, you have your family, but then there's God. And I don't know how God plays a part in our healing or in our struggle to be healed, but I would like to hear if that was a significant numerator in your recovery.
It was. That was the number one. Because if I reflect back to when I was in this room, with, I said it was white with lights illuminated, and the nurses were in there, and I really felt that the reason I was alive, that God did not want me to open that door to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Even fact, I was up standing by it. I think if I passed through that, that would have been me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not ready to go through. He wasn't ready for me to go through that door. That's why I pulled in on it, but I couldn't open it or close it. So then I had to sit back in the bed. That's when everything started to just evolve. But so I know that it had to be God to do. That he wasn't ready for me yet. And I did see a lot of stuff that is personal to me, but it was a lot that really make you convinced that there is another side, and God is there, and it's a conversation that you have with Him that you don't share.
Wow.
And getting back to Metuck, when I was out of the hospital, I got my strength back. I was walking and still stuttering, had difficulty walking straight. I was swaying a little bit. But when I went back to him for a follow-up exam, it was in March, the beginning of March, and Chris, my wife, took me. Christine took me to Yale and walked into his. We waited for a while. Walked into his office, and we opened the door. I went into the office, and when he came, he opened the door and he was just looking around. He actually expected me to be in a wheelchair. And when he saw him, he said, "Are you Roger?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Holy," I won't tell you what he said. He said, how? He didn't know what to do. He was lost because he thought that I was in a wheelchair, couldn't even move. And he said, this is amazing. And he was totally shocked because I wasn't supposed to be there. And we had a conversation and we talked to my wife about it. And but before I left, I told him about, I went through the whole process and I told him that I still have problems lifting my feet or I'm not walking straight. So he went and got his briefcase and this computer mechanism and puts it on top of my head to adjust the sequences of the fluid coming from my brain. It's like magnetic or whatever it is. He programs it. And then when I left his office, he gave me instructions and all this stuff. He's still surprised that I was even there. But when I got home and I tried walking, my walking was better.
You mean that he put a device on your head and programmed your brain, and you're able to walk better?
Yes, there's with the shunt, there's a computer mechanism that goes with it. It's like a little tube and has sequences in there.
Okay.
And he can regulate the flow of the fluid outtake from my brain going down to my
that's amazing,
to my stomach. And once it gets in my stomach, it processes itself and then sends it back.
Okay.
Purified. So yeah, they can adjust the computer. Didn't know that either, but medical world
that's amazing.
Is wide open.
That's amazing.
The things that they do, it's unbelievable.
Roger, we have about 3 more minutes, so I want to give you the chance for the last word and any questions that Reverend Clayton and Reverend Perry might have. But I want to just ask, and I'm not being judgmental about this, but you mentioned some of the lifestyle choices you had to make or to stop, the drinking, et cetera. As you talk to a young person, I mean, there's so many factors that can interfere and impact our health and our well-being. But if you had to talk to some people say a younger person, 20, 25, 30, what would you advise them in terms of them pursuing longevity and a long life? What kind of wisdom would you want to share with young people? Because when I talked to a few young people came over to my house yesterday in terms of Mother's Day, and my heart goes out to what their journey 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now might look like, given the chaos in the world. So preserving your vessel, it seems to me, is so important. So I just wonder what kind of advice you'd give to a 20 or 15 or 30-year-old person in terms of lifestyle choices.
I would tell them to believe and trust in God first.
Mm-hmm.
Do not smoke and do not drink excessively. You can drink, but don't do it excessively. And exercise.
Mm.
I exercise a lot, especially during the summertime. I mow my lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, instead of using the rider, I would use the push
Mm-hmm.
to get exercise. And sometimes I have my Fitbit. I can for a day's work, it's like walking 5 miles.
Yes.
Like 10 or 11, 12,000 miles of steps per day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a matter of how you take care of yourself.
Yes.
And you eat. I can't tell them to eat like I do because I fight all odds. So there's no rules when I'm eating, and it's really a shame, really, because I love ice cream, and I'll eat ice cream and cake at 12 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock.
No.
And go to bed.
Oh, no.
And so I can't tell them to do that.
I would never do
But
that.
just take this.
we have Harry's going to play the music in about. Harry's going to play the music in about 90 minutes, so 90 seconds.
But enjoy life and just take it easy, because things are out there that you don't want to inherit within your life. And so just take one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And don't drink, don't smoke. Because when I had my aneurysm, it wasn't my choice to stop smoking or drink. It just wasn't there anymore. It just wasn't even in my head, my brain,
Mm-hmm.
to drink or eat to smoke. So it was easy for me. But I know someone that's outside and haven't been to experience that, it's hard to stop smoking or drinking. But you have to listen to your brain or follow your brain. And only you can do that. Just say, I don't want to do it, or slow down what you're doing, because there's always another day.
That's indeed. Here's to another day. And gentlemen, thank you so much, Reverend.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate you. It's very inspiring.
Thank you
so much.
Very well.
This is Harry Grove, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven.
In the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gonna be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road. Let's get